This whole idea about becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner, it's so sexy and everybody wants to do it and it's thrown around the terms and you see all the social media stuff going out. But the truth is, it's fucking hard. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Airbnb Nomads podcast. And on this week's Property Education Masterclass, we welcome the incredible LaToya McDonald. Now, LaToya is a big HMO investor, lettings agency owner, monthly contributor to YPN magazine. But above all of that, she is a systems and processes master, coach, and mentor. And we really dig deep into the importance around having systems in your business. Otherwise, what's the point? If you can't get your time back at the end of the day, you might as well stay in the job. Guys, enjoy this episode. There is so much value in here. If you get value from it, we ask you to please follow the show and leave us a review. It helps us so much spreading this content. Until then, get comfortable. This is a really great episode. I really enjoyed it. LaToya's fantastic. Here we go. LaToya McDonald, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited as well. We've been trying to make this happen for quite a while now. I think we first connected, God, I don't know, 6 to 8 months ago. You was one of the first people that I actually wanted to try and get on the show because what you do is so vitally important to property business, plumbing business, accountancy business, whatever it is, with your systems background and your processes and your outsourcing. I think it's amazing. You've also got a lot of other stuff going on. I'll just read off real quick. You're a letting agency owner, HMO investor, public speaker, monthly writer for YPN magazine, which most of us know. If you're in property, you know about YPN magazine, which is really cool. And obviously, like you said, you're a mentor, coach, and just overall guru when it comes to systems and outsourcing and processing, which I want to get into in a big way. So yeah, I guess let's just start. Where did this all begin? And let me hear that wicked accent of yours too. I love it.
I know the accent's probably a bit weird at the minute because I'm in New Zealand and I'm surrounded by them. So it's probably come back quite thick. So I guess where it started for me, late teens, real estate in New Zealand. I started working in the reception admin area of a real estate sales office. And if you don't know real estate sales in New Zealand, it's 100% commission. It's very fast paced and things happen like that. You definitely, from the time that a buyer agrees to buy a property to the time they get their keys, definitely 30 days or 14 working days. So it is fast paced.
Wow.
You need to be very organized. And if you know what salespeople are like, they're not normally organized people. They are salespeople. They're out there doing the deals. So I was responsible for bringing all that paperwork in, making sure it got to the solicitors, keeping the guys and the gals on track with the deals, making sure they don't fall out of bed. There's information being done. So that was a very fast-paced office. You had to be organized, structured, well-oiled machine. So that was my first taste into reception admin work. And I then did my real estate license, went into real estate myself. So I'm really old. I've been in property for a very, very long time, started at the bottom, worked my way up. So that is kind of my background.
LaToya, sorry, just to jump in with the real estate market in New Zealand. When you have an offer accepted, is it like legally binding like it is in Scotland, or is it more messed up like the UK?
No.
England?
Yeah, you put down a deposit, and if you pull out, you lose that deposit. Sometimes you can put in an offer that you don't have a deposit, but it's you got to think of it from the vendor's point of view. If you're going to put in an offer, you want it to look strong and get accepted. So, and that is the job of a real estate agent, to know their vendor, the owner, and know the buyer, and make sure that matches together and stays together. If they know the vendor is maybe a block of flats, they've got tenants, and it could be a bit risky taking an offer, giving them notice to vacate maybe, or you want a good deposit there. So, but it's not like the UK where months and months go by and you just want to rip your eyeballs out. It's just pain. I've never known anything like it. My first HMO purchase, I just thought, I actually wanted to move into the solicitor's office and just start helping out, because I was like, well, how hard can it be?
Oh,
How
you must
you
have been in agony.
well,
Agony.
I thought before I moved to the UK, I was like, it's the mothership. We all came from there. It must be so advanced because that's
Yeah.
what we all came from.
Yeah. No, truth is, it's broken like everything else in England. Yeah. One
Yeah,
of the many problems.
it was a shock. So I love the New Zealand real estate system. Essentially, it's an American system. But as I briefly mentioned before we started recording, I personally invest in the UK. Love
Yep.
investing in the UK. You can't convince me to come back to New Zealand to invest. I used to before I moved, and then got rid of them to go to the UK. I will not be coming back here anytime soon to invest.
Yeah. I think it's, the way that you're doing it, at least I think from what you said before we came on air was, make money in the UK, make money from real estate in the UK, and then take that money,
Yeah.
and ultimately retire somewhere else, right? Back to the beauty of New Zealand or, Asia or wherever you want to go. But the UK is a good place to make money.
Oh,
Yeah.
land of opportunity, mate. Like that
Yeah.
is the UK. I get excited about it. It's there's just so much opportunity there.
Yeah. So when did you make the move over to the UK then?
So that was 2011. So just being purely honest with you, we had an earthquake in Christchurch. That's where I was selling real estate. Real estate's 100% commission. And
Yeah.
when you're a salesperson, you're doing really well sales-wise, you need to have that level of money to keep that lifestyle, to keep that going. And when you have a disaster like an earthquake, it all stops. Nothing happens. There's no insurance. There's no nothing. It's just stopped. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay in New Zealand? I could have gone to Wellington or Auckland to restart. I did not want to do that. And my now husband, is from Cornwall, and they had the
Okay.
family
So
farm there.
that's the
That's
connection.
the connection, yeah.
Yeah.
So he said, "Should we could go live on the family farm?" And I thought, gosh, I'd never done anything with my life other than work 7 days a week in property. And I thought, imagine if I just left and went somewhere different. I'd never done the whole OE that other people had done. So it was very, very scary to me. And
Because
yeah,
you are generally very well traveled, the Kiwis, right? I met a lot when I was doing my hardcore backpacking.
yeah, I'm surprised there's anyone here. They all love traveling and doing stuff.
Yeah.
Me, not so much. I just really loved working. That's all I wanted to do was just work. I loved it. I had fun doing it. Yeah, I did not travel. I went to like places like Rarotonga, Australia, but not the proper travel. All my friends had, I hadn't.
Yeah, fair enough. It's not for everybody. You're more of a working girl.
Yeah.
So okay, so you make the move over to the UK with your now husband. Is it Cornwall? Is that where you're now based?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's where we live. And I came over and I got a job on the high street in property to learn your terminology. Nobody wants to be saying the wrong words or look like an idiot. You want to be educated, don't you? So I got a job on the high street. I didn't know anything about property here. I got a job, and when I went for the interview, it should have been a little sign to these people that hired me. There's something not right, because I was like, "You're going to pay me. You're going to pay me every month." And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What do I have to do for that?" You just basically turn up, sit in front of a computer, and do hardly anything else, really.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to offend anyone who's on the high street, because each area is different and that sort of thing. But it was. I found it soul destroying. I really did. I really struggled with it because I'm used to being held accountable and being responsible for bringing money into an office, like doing, yeah.
Interesting. So are you saying that because you were going to get paid regardless, the levels of motivation that you saw around you were less than if you were purely commission based?
100%. If you go from earning 3.95% on a house sale to 20 quid if you go out and rent a property, I mean, I wasn't going anywhere in the rain. I was just like, it's a completely different motivation point, but it's what like I was so used to back home. If you were in the office, if you were in the real estate office, your boss would say, what are you doing? Why aren't you out making money? Don't come in here and sit around doing nothing. Get out
Wow.
there and make money. So I was very shocked where you sit in an office, and I would say that, like I say, I don't want to bring anyone down in the property industry in the UK, because each area is going to be different. I'm sure London is very different. But, I worked for a corporate, and one week they would say you have to do so many keystrokes. So they monitor your keystrokes on the computer. I'm like, that's not making money, mate. Like, that's a waste of time. And then the next week it was like, well, we need bums on seats for mortgages. Get on the phones and start ringing people to come in and get mortgages. I'm like, I thought we were here to rent property and sell houses. Like, I'm not here to make appointments for the mortgage broker. So, a very difficult employee I was.
Yes. Well, it's a completely different system. And I
Yeah.
think here in Mallorca, the way the real estate works is I think you get a very, very, very small salary. And then the majority of your income comes
Oh,
from
right.
sales. So
Yeah.
again, you're heavily motivated to go out, be knocking on doors, chasing down leads,
Yes.
having conversations,
Yeah.
rather than waiting for somebody to walk through the door. So yeah, it makes complete sense.
Exactly. And like, I really wanted to be desperately in that role of being out of the office, bringing on business. But there was one man in the office, that was his role. I was just like, what have I come into? What
Wow.
is this?
So I guess it was pretty quick that you started to think I need to kind of blaze my own trail here and make
Yeah.
my own money and invest in my own stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
that's what springboarded you into property investment for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was pretty quick that, I didn't want to be sitting at home. So it was somewhere for me to go during the day and build my connections. I used
Yeah.
that office to build connections. And while I was working there, I started looking for lease options, and I started looking for rent to rent. And I had already signed up for a rent to rent course, but it was a small period in the future. So I was like looking at either lease options or rent to rent. And then when I went on the rent to rent course, I already had one lined up. So, and then rent to rent took off for me. So
Was
that's,
this was this HMOs?
yeah.
So houses of multiple occupation, for anybody that doesn't know, LaToya, we should probably just let them know at home. Basically, big houses broken down into individual rooms, different tenants, different AST contracts. Great business to be in, especially in the UK, where nobody can afford to buy. Everybody's looking to rent. Super, super solid strategy, I think.
Yeah,
Brilliant strategy.
I still love rent to rent today. I get excited by it. Anyone who's doing rent to rent, I'm like, oh, how's it going? What you're up to. I just love it. It's very, very exciting. So my thing when I started was, it was down in Cornwall, because it hadn't been brought, the whole of England hadn't been brought into together yet. So our rules were up to 5 people was
Yep.
unlicensed, so I didn't have to do fire doors or anything like that. So the refurbs were really cheap. And my specialty when I got on a roll was I served a purpose for letting agents. So letting agents will go out to view properties to rent, and they'll look at them and go, oh, I don't know if I want to advertise this with our brand on it. It's not, you know, it's not up to scratch. So I would take those properties on. So the letting agent was still getting their cut. I'm
Yep.
getting my contract, and I could do my job with the property.
With HMO rent to rent now, is there still margins to be made? Because with the energy crisis and all this kind of stuff, and obviously your piece going off to the owner of the property,
Mm.
there's still margins in it.
Uh, to give you an example, we still offer guaranteed rent to landlords. I haven't done one, must be over 4 years now.
Right.
It's just, I mean, I did do it in a good time as well, so I'm used to the high income, but I can manage a HMO and probably get on average £400 a month. So why would I take on a rent to rent and get less? I want to be
Yes.
paid well for it, because I'm taking a lot of risk on. I normally do
Yep.
a certain amount of maintenance as well. But I know of other rent to renters in our area who are doing deals that I wouldn't touch. I'm like, that is risky.
Mm.
There's a lot more you can go and do for £200. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you wouldn't risk it yourself.
Yeah, and I think people, I've never done it. I wouldn't do it. I think HMOs are fantastic if you're buying, renovating, refinancing, and holding, and owning. But rent to rent, I think there's a really good chance for new people to get into a lot of trouble where they end up taking on deals that portfolio landlords are just trying to offload because they're really run down. And you end up getting offered just a rat pit that you're going to end up spending 20, 30,000 pounds on renovating a big 6, 7, 8 bed
Yeah.
HMO that you'll never own,
Yeah.
and I think that's where you got to be careful.
Yeah, it's all about your risk element. So for example, for me, I'm a cash flow person. I like a good amount of cash flow. But also on the refurb, if you've got a 5-year contract and it's going to take you 8 months to get your money back, maybe that's a deal you would do. But would you do that if you're only going to get £200 a month? Like it's all relative. But if I see people doing shorter. I mean, 5 years goes like that. You really do need to do these longer term contracts and tie up the landlord, as long as you've done your numbers and it works for you.
Yeah, 100%. So what is it that you're doing now? Let's bring up to the present moment. So,
Mhm.
you've got a lot of stuff going on. I do want to spend, a fair chunk of it speaking about really diving deep into the system side of it, because I
Mm.
think it's so important. So what is it that you're focusing on now aside from that in your property investment journey?
Yeah, so I've got the letting agency in Cornwall, and that's does well on its HMO management. So we're really good at that. So that's what that does. And then myself and my husband, we have a HMO portfolio, and then I do the coaching business as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And the HMO portfolio, is that something that you've built up through doing what I just said, through buying, renovating, refinancing?
Yeah, they were kind of existing HMOs. So the first one I did was actually a lease option, and that was bed sits, like old school. And so I then just brought that into what I call a normal HMO, where it's rooms, they share the kitchen. So I turned that into it. Then I bought another one, which was, I would say, an illegal HMO. When you go into a property and you can see the signs that it's slightly commercial with the fire system. I think they were
Yeah.
running an illegal HMO. So that was a good one for me to get. And yeah, the next one after that had been again used as old school bed sits. So we took that on. So yeah, I would say they were kind of HMO-y before we got them anyway. Yeah,
HMO, that's a
yeah.
new term you just just coined there. You can keep that
HMO
one.
like.
So let's can we dive a little bit into the lease option stuff,
Yeah,
because I think that's interesting. Lease options, they're a bit of a, I don't know, are they real? Do they actually happen? You hear everybody talking about them and teaching them and selling courses on them.
yeah,
I know they're massive in the commercial world.
yeah,
There's endless amounts of options that are going on every single day. A lot of people might not realize that, when they're driving down the road and they see all of a sudden there's a 100-acre piece of land next to them that said sold. A lot of the time that's on an option, right? Where the
yeah,
developers secured it on an option that they're going to get planning. So they're happening every day, but you might just not understand exactly what they are. They're not advertised in the shop window. You have to really understand them to go out and find them. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about how you've been doing that. Where have you found these options and how do they work?
yeah. So I've only done one lease option, and that was I call it, when I came over from New Zealand into the UK, I call it fresh off the boat. I was very much a Kiwi mentality, really positive. Anything can be done. And one of the things that is quite common over here is lease options. So I didn't even think it was a big deal when I went to the UK. And the guy that had the old school bed sits was at the end of his tether. He had already done bed sits for 20 years. And he was at the stage where it's like, I've got nothing to lose with this girl. Like, just give it to her. So, and I had no money, so I had to do the lease option to get it done. So I think it was a combination of, I didn't know any different. I thought lease options were normal, and the owner was at the right period of his life where he just thought he's got nothing. That's how I interpret it now. Looking back, he had nothing to lose. He was at the end of his tether. Thought, give her a go. Give it a go. Worst case scenario, she renovates a house for me and I've got it back.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what's interesting when I sit here and I do these podcasts, and I talk to people like you that have done loads of cool stuff, and it's almost like, for some reason you're always trying to justify why it happened and why it was so easy for it. But the fact is, that it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have gone out and made it happen. Right. So you must have put yourself in that situation in the first place. And you might not have recognized it. Maybe you didn't at the time. Maybe you still don't. Maybe you might do at the end of this podcast. But there was probably a lot of steps that led up to the time where you sat down and signed a contract to take on all of those bets. There was work that went into that, sweat that went into it. There was you putting yourself outside your comfort zone, doing a bunch of networking, probably picking up the phone 1,000 times. So in reality, it's probably a little bit more than the guy just thinking, oh, what have I got to lose? You made that happen. So what were those steps? What did those steps look like? Can you remember back to how that happened?
I think it's funny you say that, because for a very long time, I've been doing podcasts, speaking, doing interviews, and people would say, oh, how did you do so well with rent-to-rent stuff? And I just used to kind of brush it off and be like, oh, it was just right timing, but it was bloody hard work. And I did, coming from New Zealand, I was used to doing 50 phone calls minimum a day, cold calling. So, I just did that kind of stuff, constantly sent out letters. So, and I can only speak on my experience, but, I'm on the HMO database myself. So the letters I get one letter, then it's tumbleweeds.
That's it.
And I'm like, I'm not giving you my HMO if you can't even be consistent. So when I did the HMO database, I was consistent. When I got hold of some details off them, I worked those details. So as soon as some poor person accidentally gave me their number, it was on. Or
you were swarming all over.
Yeah. So, and I think I do have to maybe say that perhaps maybe why people didn't hang up on the phone to me is maybe my accent. I don't know. Maybe they were just interested in what I had to say, or who's this strange person in Cornwall doing property. I thought we were the only ones.
If you love to travel like me and you understand the power in escaping the money for time exchange trap, but you just don't know how to do it, then building an Airbnb consultancy business could be exactly what you have been looking for. Right now in the UK, there is a completely untapped opportunity through helping struggling Airbnb hosts by turning around their underperforming properties and generating you huge commission payments in the process. We are going to teach you all of the tools and all of the techniques that we've learned over the last 5 years through building our very own multiple six-figure Airbnb business, arming you with everything that you need to swoop in and save the day. Minimal startup costs, zero risk, and almost unlimited potential. Sound good? Welcome to the Airbnb Consultant. Contact us through any of the channels included in the studio notes to get the conversation started. Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt that, if somebody answers the phone to you compared to, a Brummie or a Mancunian or just another normal, English accent, there's probably a little bit more chance that they're going to give you the time of day. But still, you've got to put yourself in that position where you're giving yourself the opportunity for that conversation to go somewhere.
Yeah.
What do you think about, this is something that I bang on about all the time. You see people on the phone and the person answers the phone and it's like, hello. They're like, hello. Like, oh yeah, hi. I'm calling about the HMO. Do you want to rent it? Or I'm calling about the property. I'd like to rent it, on a corporate let. And I'm always like, give it some damn time to like have a conversation, find some rapport, find some things in common, talk about friggin' anything other than the reason why you're calling.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey there, how you doing? Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Yeah, good, thanks. How's the weather over there? Just out of chance. It's absolutely tipping it down here. Like, do anything you can to start the conversation way over here. Get them speaking, build up some rapport, have some conversation, and then slowly kind of lead into why you're making the phone call. I think it's such a better technique. I think you're going to have a lot more success.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think as well, especially with people that are so obsessed with like, I've got to get property on. They forget to build the rapport and stuff. I mean, my thing has always been to get in front of people. I don't want to do anything on the phone. I want to get to their house. I want to get and sit in their kitchen with them. That's where I do my best work, is in front of people. That's what I find anyway. Over the phone, there's no deal to be done over the phone. That's too soon. I've got to get in front of people.
Yeah, and look, you're obviously, anyone listening to this, me talking to you now, you're very confident. bubbly, energetic. It's I don't know if easy is the right word because we all have to, put in the effort, but it's probably a little bit easier for you than someone who's very introverted, very shy, very nervous. And when you couple that with just starting out in property, imposter syndrome, all of this stuff, all of this mindset stuff, comparing yourself to everyone out there that's, supposedly doing amazing things. What would you say to that person who's sitting at home thinking, there's no frigging way I can go and visit that agent. There's no way I can go to that networking event and do my pitch.
Yeah, I have clients that I talk to about this stuff, and I just give them like tick things that they've got to do. So they've got to do so much on social media. They've got to go to networking events, try and get in front of the room, try and speak to people who are running the networking events and speak. And then I would also recommend people that are really, not confident, is if they're wanting to do rent to rent, do some phone calls and visits in another area to get rejected so that they build that up and get used to it. And then they can go back to their own investment area and boom, they hit the ground running. Because that's, I just used to go into it didn't bother me to get rejected because I was used to that from real estate in New Zealand. So I'd go into these offices, they'd reject me, and I was thinking, I'll see you next week. I'll be back. And it worked. I got 3 letting agencies that would work with me. They did not want to work with me in the beginning. They probably thought I was weird. Why am I still coming in? They told me, no, go away, but I just kept going. I think you've just got to get that rejection under your belt. And that does make you more confident as well. I hope that does make people more confident.
Yeah. And look, I think at the end of the day, there's no magic pill. If you're not naturally born, a really confident person when it comes to being in the room, having conversations, with people that you don't know, you've just got to go through that really uncomfortable, leading up to that first time you call in an agent, you walk in circles in your bedroom or your office, your heart's beating out your chest. You're worried that you're going to mess up your little script that you've been trying to, memorize, but you just got to do it. And the more you do it, the easier it'll get.
Absolutely. And I always encourage people to do it Monday morning, first thing Monday morning, get it done. Cause you'll be like, if you don't, then it'll go to Tuesday afternoon, then Wednesday, you're so busy, you've not had time to do it. Monday morning, get your really ugly stuff done that you really feel in the pit of your stomach. Oh my God, I don't want to do this. Get it done. Because then you'll feel like amazing for the week and it will give you a bit of a high, bit of a rush. But people that are thinking, they've got this goal and they're down here and they're like, oh, I don't want to do the phone calls. I don't want to go into the office. That's embarrassing. Oh, you're not going to get your goal. So you are holding yourself back. Get the work done. Anyone that you're looking up to on social media, anyone you're looking up to on YouTube, the property gurus, they didn't get there because they didn't put themselves out of their comfort zone. So whether you like it or not, you got to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve what you want in life. You just be average.
Yeah. Average, 100%. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's really it is that simple. But what you just said about that you're a people person, you want to get in the house, you want to get in the shop with the agents. It's so true. Like if you want the number one thing you can do to separate yourself from the literally hundreds of thousands of people now that are pouring out of training courses and, sitting in their little office on the phone, in the warm with a cup of tea, hoping that they're going to get a yes. The one thing you can do to separate yourself is to go there in person, go in there, be confident, business card, strong handshake, conversation. And, you immediately separate yourself. You're in a much smaller percentage.
And consistency.
Yeah.
You don't just turn up once and then tumbleweed it. Don't just write one letter and then tumbleweed it. Consistency.
Yeah. So did you literally used to like, if you went in on a Monday, then the following Monday you go back in again? Like you had specific
I can't remember exactly what I used to do, but I'd sort of maybe mix it up. So go in and see them, do a phone call, follow it with an
Yeah.
email, then just rotate it around. So I wasn't a complete weirdo psycho going in every 7 days.
Yeah.
I've got
Every
to,
day.
yeah, I've got to watch my psychoness. So yeah, you've got to be sensible about it. But you know, and it does work. You know, like I said, when I started off, these letting agents were probably like, oh my God, what is that? And interestingly enough, one guy that gave me multiple properties was a guy who owned a Northwood office. And we even did a guaranteed rent on one of his guaranteed rents. And he probably thought I was nuts in the beginning, thought I was probably nuts. And then he started to go, oh, actually, she's all right to chat to. She's interesting. She talks about real estate in New Zealand. And then I used to go out with him. So we'd go out and would, you know, go for coffee. We might go and look at some properties together. Then he offered me a job. So, you know,
that might be a Northwood thing, because I know her name's Jackie, Northwood in my local area, and she was great. You know, I used to go in there. It started off like, you know, I'm just another weirdo that's walking in asking have you got anything going on, and then after a few occasions, I'd, you know, pull up a chair. How's it going, Jackie? Oh, my back's hurting, whatever, and I'd just go in there and chat. And sometimes I go in there and we chat. We wouldn't even talk about property. We just go in, have a casual chat, and then, you know, she'd just give me a call and go, "You still looking for this or that? This has just come in." So it's almost like it reversed. I'm like, I'm not asking, now you're offering, you know,
I love
and it
that.
just, because of relationship.
Yeah,
you know,
it really is. Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I found my little niche as well. So I knew my place was serving a purpose for those letting agents. You know, especially in Cornwall, even back then, we're going back 2012, 13, 14, 15, even back then in Cornwall, the agents did not need me. They can rent stuff like that. They did not need me. So I had to find my area. My area was taking on their rough properties, serving a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be solving a problem, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, and offering a solution.
Yeah.
Making people's lives easier, offering, it makes a lot of sense. Just offer a solution, and deals will come along. Okay, so I just want to just go back just a little again to that lease option on the bedsit. So how long were you leasing or renting that whole premises for?
So we did a 2-year contract on that, and then we had an extension of a year. And that was really down to the solicitors. The solicitors really stuffed us on it. And the owners were so good as gold. They really were. They'd go into the solicitor's office with us and try and get things sorted. So it was a nightmare buying it. And we had...
How long was the option that you agreed on it?
So it was originally 2 years.
It was 2 years.
Yeah.
And then the idea was, throughout that period, obviously it needed a lot of work. So you just renovated all the bed sits, and then
renovated it, and then went for the purchase. So we renovated, we had it rented, and then we just went through the purchase side of things. So I mean, it should have been done within 2 years, but the solicitor was just a nightmare. It was honestly, my first purchase was, it did not instill me with confidence for the next one, put it that way. But I think it was a lot of problem with the solicitor. And also we bought it was a bed set above a shop on the high street, and it was a freehold property, but the shop was not part of it. And so that was a spanner in the works for the purchase as well. The solicitors couldn't get their head around how it wasn't a leasehold, and who's responsible for what. It was a nightmare.
Oh.
Yeah.
Stressing me out just hearing about it.
I know. And I was like, is it really this difficult? Really? But yeah.
I've had my experiences with that. I bought it was a flat. It was a small 1-bedroom flat in Essex. And I think that was over a year. And that was because it was one of these massive conveyancing companies that the agent recommended that we should use, that were no doubt getting a kickback.
Yes.
So I've always, since then, whenever I've bought property, I always go with the smaller guys, you know, where you get the same person on the phone, because every time I called them, I nearly said their name then, but I probably shouldn't. You know, you'd go through to the operator, and then they'd transfer you to this person and that person. I'm like, I want to speak to the same person who I complained to last time.
Yeah.
Don't put me on to someone else. So now it's like, yeah, just go with the small companies. That personal touch.
Yes. I had to learn that about this country. So coming from New Zealand, you have the best accountant, the best solicitor you can get. That's the service you pay for. You get what you pay for. I've had to change my mindset moving to the UK, and that's not how I feel now. I definitely feel like you find the person that you can connect with and get on the emails with, and they know exactly what you're talking about because they're dealing with your property, rather than a big office. And yeah, it's completely changed my mindset going to the UK.
I think you've got to be very lucky to start in the property investing world, whatever you're doing, and not have to go through that process of exactly what we're talking about, where you get the shit solicitor, the crap mortgage broker,
Yeah.
and then you do your second deal, it gets a bit better. By the time you've done your third deal, all of a sudden you've got this power team, and you're like, John, I need a mortgage. Susan, I need some conveyancing doing. And it's just like bam, 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 and before you know it, 3 months you're done.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, on the courses they teach you about this power team, but sometimes if you've not done a purchase, you don't really know that solicitor. It's not really a power team yet, like you say, until you've done so many deals, and then you can get on the phone and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, like the one you did in Smith Street. Yeah, that's no worries. Yeah, I think that's your true power team when you get going and you can get on the phone with them.
Yeah, and you learn so much, right? I mean, you do your first deal, you're like, what is conveyancing? Like, what does that even mean? And then you go through, and then the next deal, you're like, okay, I know I need to be prepared with this. I need that document, so I want to get them there first. Get ahead of myself. And it like anything, right? Just gets easier. Okay, so let's bring it up to the present day. You've got your HMO portfolio. You've done your options, your lease options, you've done all your rent to rent stuff. So what was it that made you kind of now start to specialize in this kind of systems, outsourcing processes, VAs?
Yeah. So throughout the time that I've been doing the rent to rent business, I then took on managements as well, and that business evolved. And during that period of time, I'd have employed staff, and I found that really stressful. I just thought it was normal. Like anyone who had employed team, that was part of being a business owner, was dealing with the stress of staff. But I had some problems along the way. For example, got a property business. I'm employing just above minimum wage, but expecting 40K a year mentality out of people. And that's a problem. And I do see that even to this day within the property industry, on the high street especially. They're not paying high income to people, but they expect a lot out of them. They're running around doing all sorts. So I kind of fell into that trap. And I guess over 2015, 2016, I'd heard about virtual assistants, especially because I'm a podcast lover, and I'd kind of heard about things. But a lot of people were talking about the Philippines, and I couldn't understand how I was going to get people in the Philippines to do work for me when I couldn't even get my own staff to do things that they've been told 10 times how to do. So I just kept absorbing the information and learning. And then I reached a point with my employed team where I thought, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. If it's not one's sick, one's on holiday, one's just having they've just got stuff all done for the week and we're behind. I just thought, what if I got to lose? I was at that kind of point. And that's when I started to introduce virtual assistants. And I started off with a UK one because that's where I felt comfortable. I thought I could do that. It's going to cost me a lot of money, but I'm going to learn a lot. It's going to educate me. So I started off with UK VAs, and then I had to rewrite procedures and have systems in place for virtual assistants to run my business because they're not in the office. They're not coming, to a place of work. They weren't even anywhere near Cornwall. So I had to rewrite all of that. And then once I'd done that and got it working, that's when I would say I'd always kind of wanted to do mentoring and coaching, but everyone's doing HMOs, everyone's doing rent to rent, everyone's doing lease options. And I wanted to do something of value that was really cool and excited me. And I'm actually a bit of an admin nerd. I love, bit weird for a salesperson, but I love organization. I love structure. I love all that stuff. And a lot of property friends had said to me, oh, you could do this, you could do that. And I started to think, well, actually, I could teach people how to do what I've done with virtual assistants. And when I broke that down, what have I done with virtual assistants? Well, I've set up the business procedure-wise systems wise, which has allowed somebody in another country to run the day-to-day. And that's when in 2022 I launched Outsourcing Your Property Business.
And how's it going?
It's good. Yeah. I'm in a very happy place. You cannot scale to the next level without bringing teams in, virtual assistants and that sort of thing. But right now I'm really enjoying the one-on-one. So I am limited without how much I can scale that. But yeah, I'm happy with my clients one-on-one. Yeah. It's just my happy place.
And I think it's a great place to be in because part of growing a business, this whole idea about becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner, it's so sexy and everybody wants to do it and it's thrown around the terms and you see all the social media stuff going out. But the truth is it's fucking hard. It's so hard. And the sacrifices you have to make and the time that, you can tie yourself up in knots just trying to do everything. And then you beat yourself up because you haven't done enough. So learning what it is that you're teaching is essential, really. If you want to, Dan Cheatham on the episode, and he said something that I've never forgotten. He said that he came from his corporate background, became a business owner, got into serviced accommodation, but because he was doing it wrong from the beginning, he didn't have systems and processes in place. He said, all I did was replace shackles for shackles, they were now shackles that he was taking to bed with him at night because all of a sudden the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
So what's the point if you're not going to be able to get it to a point in the future, obviously not within a few months or even a year or a couple of years, but at some point you want to be working towards, okay, now I can start to step out.
Yes, absolutely. And you don't have to have 40 hours a week to give out right now. You can start small. And I do encourage people to do that because I had some issues with those first VAs, which I have to take responsibility for. As a business owner, you have to you play a part when things don't go right. And I didn't have the experience. I had the experience with the staff, with employed staff, but not with, self-employed people running on their own terms. So if I'd started off a bit smaller and just giving out bits to different VAs, I would have got more experience quicker, rather than just going all in on one VA, trying to get all the business done. So yeah, it's, anyone who's listening who's thinking, oh yeah, I'll get a VA in 2 years when I'm really big and I'm where I want to be. Don't do that. Get a VA sooner, even if it's just an hour a week. Teaches you delegation, teaches you how to spot check, teaches you how to communicate with that person. And then as you grow, you'll have those skills.
I'm going to throw some objections at you that you can hopefully help me overcome. I'm kind of interested, I'm getting kind of bogged down, weighed down. I could really do with some help. I'd love the idea of taking on a couple of VAs from the Philippines, but I don't trust them writing anything because, the writing, the grammar, the spelling is going to be dog shit. I don't trust them calling agents because there's going to be no energy on the phone. They're not going to be able to go into detail if they're asked questions, if they go off script. So I'm not going to have them do that. And I'm definitely not going to give them access to any of my bank account information because I don't trust someone over in the Philippines to be handling any of my payments or invoicing, or access to any confidential information at all. Mm-hmm. So why would I even bother?
Well, you're just going to stay where you are. You're going to stay where you are. You're going to stay working in your business. Like you said, property is a job, whether you like it or not. It's not this big flash thing. You don't buy 3 HMOs and all of a sudden you've got the dream life. You've got all your time back. That's earned. You have to earn that. By earning that is structuring your business and bringing on people. I mean, you have to look within. So, for example, for me, I could not understand how I was going to outsource to the Philippines in the beginning. So I then had to pay the price of having a UK VA. That was expensive, but that was my comfort zone. And it could be that somebody out there who needs somebody in their business and cannot fathom how the hell they're going to have a virtual assistant. Well, they're going to have to pay even more money and have an employed staff member to start with until they start working their way up. If you do not do anything, there's only so much us as a single operator can do in our business. And it's things like, I work with clients and there's different parts. I pull the business apart essentially and put it back together. And there's things like the phone, the mobile phone. And a lot of people say to me, oh, I could never outsource the phone. I've got to take those calls and stuff. And I'm like, that's like such low hourly rate stuff. Every time that phone rings, you're ending the task you're on. Your mind is now taken away, sucked away to go do that. And then when you finish that, then you move on to something else because that's taken your attention. And it's a vicious cycle. So, you have to take things off your plate. You take the phone away. Let's say that gives you 2 hours back in your week. What can you do with that 2 hours that you couldn't do before? Bring on more business, growth, more cash flow, work on other areas of the business to make it more profitable. You've got that opportunity now. You did not have that before because you were doing everything.
Yeah. And I'll be completely honest. I have a huge problem with focus, starting a task and finishing a task. My phone doesn't stop, between family, work, friends, WhatsApp, constantly. I find myself, you know, I'll open up a program, like I'll go to make a payment or I'll go to write an email, and then the phone goes off and I answer a message. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I need to grab a drink. And then I'm in the fridge and it's like, shit, what happened to that thing that I planned to do an hour ago that I started and completely forgot about, so, and I think a lot of people are like that, right? It's not just me. It's very
Absolutely.
common.
That's me. That's a lot of clients I deal with. So there's a couple of things here. You have to have structure. So many business people and entrepreneurs I work with think they can do what they want, when they want. The week is theirs. I'm sorry, it's not. It's a job, and we need to put structure in your diary. And then what I do, which worked for me, so I do with other clients who have similar personalities to me, which has got a million things on the go at once, you have a timer. So with my clients that struggle, I set them short tasks to do during the week. So if they have their emails, for example, the timer is on for 15 minutes. They smash through as much as possible, then they move on to the next task. Because for a lot of people, that's better than what they were doing before. At least they're achieving more. They feel like they're ticking a box. It's a lot, the energy is more consistent, rather than these highs and lows of, oh, I've been sucked here and I haven't got that done. And oh God, what a crappy week. Versus a week where I've got quite a bit done this week and I'm further forward towards my goal than if I hadn't have been structured. You've got to have structure. You've got to have timer. If you are of a similar personality to you and I.
Sometimes I'm at the point where I'm like, 100% I've got ADHD, 100% I've got ADHD,
You probably
and
do.
I start labeling myself. But I think in reality, it's probably just that I'm not. It's so true what you said. When you come from an employee role, and then you go into running your own business, you all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, okay, there's no one to tell me what to do. There's no one to tell me that I have to do this, this, and that before I can take lunch. So if you're not doing the things that you're saying, if you're not structured, if you don't set tasks, plan your week, use the timer, you just you're just drifting.
And this is for so many people I work with, because I talk about the high money making activities. So many people think they're doing high money making activities. And then when I start working with them, their week is being sucked by low hourly rate stuff. I have to work really hard with some people to push them really out of their comfort zone and really question them and say, you are not doing high money making activities. You answering the phone to a potential client is not a high money making activity. That's just sucking your time. They're not qualified. Nobody's qualified that person for you. So I do have to push people and help people with structure. Definitely.
Yeah, and there's so many different techniques, isn't there, and ideas, and everybody's got their own way. I know people, Rick Gannon that was on here. So his go-to is that the night before, the next day, I think he sets like 20 things that he needs to do.
Oh yeah.
And then he breaks them all down into A tasks and B tasks. A tasks will be, income generating tasks, and B tasks will be admin stuff that needs to be done but isn't necessarily going to bring in money. And then he'll give himself, okay, I need to do 3 A tasks and 1 B task, for example, and that will be his task for that next day. And then there's other people that they'll do like 50 minutes of really solid work, 10-minute break, walk around the block, get some air, come back in, hit the timer again, another 50 minutes. So yeah, tell us about some of your kind of techniques that you work with your clients for people
Yeah.
that are just scatterbrains all over the place.
Yeah. So
Hold
first
on, let me take some notes.
First, I get to know them and the business and where they're at with it. So I normally spend like the first 4 or 5 weeks getting to know the business, and we're working on procedures. And then I start to get to know them more and what could be potential high money making activities for them. And then when I have a program and I get to week 13, and that's when I start working with the director or the business owner on them. So I've done the business, I've done the virtual assistant, now I'm working on them. And depending on how they are personality-wise, because I've got to know them really well, I spend every week with them.
Sorry, LaToya. Do you mean when you say you've done the virtual assistant
Yeah.
thing? Do you mean that you actually bring that virtual assistant
Yeah.
in and connect them? Okay,
Yeah, so the
that's cool.
first 12 weeks that I work with a client is all about the low hourly rate stuff in the business, creating procedures for that, putting in systems, and then I bring on a virtual assistant for them. So when that's all done, then I can focus on the director and spend time with them to see what their life is going to be like going forward, because I've taken a lot of stuff off them. I've taken a lot of emails off them, phone off them, dealing with clients. I've taken that off them. So now they've actually got time. We need to structure that time. How's their week going to look? And I give them a new, what's going to be their new life going forward, really, for them to get used to without being sucked into low hourly rate stuff. Because 12 weeks is not long enough for me to get people out of their bad habits. So I stay with people for 6 months from week 13 onwards with the director, making sure that they stay on track as well. So if they are of similar personality to you and I'm going to give them shorter times. I'm going to put base things in like their emails, finance, profit is very important to me. Cash flow and profit. So I will work with, make sure that my directors have time for that. And then I'm going to have other things in there for them. That could be CrossFit. It could be time that maybe they have a very close loved one that they need to spend time with, making sure that's in the structure, in the diary, so that things are getting ticked and done. And then with the tasks, I'm putting shorter, for anyone of our personality, shorter tasks and a timer. So I wouldn't have them sit there and do a task for 50 minutes because they probably won't sit there for 50 minutes doing it. They'll start something else or go off. So I do shorter times for them with the timer, and then they move on. So they might do 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, rather than half an hour back, a full slot. So it just depends on their personality, how they are. I meet people and I'm like, oh, they're very much an admin person. So now I need to push them to do more sales stuff. I need to put that in the diary, make sure that gets done. Or people who are more salesy and struggle to do admin, I need to make sure that I check in with them and make sure they are doing that weekly. So yeah, just depends on the people, and after I've gotten to know them, then I can break down their week for them.
Yeah, it's a lot of really juicy stuff there. And I think what you said about, I think one of the biggest things that can go wrong is when you come into being a business owner. Sometimes when you as an employee and you finished at 5 and you got home at 5:30, you knew that at 6 p.m., for example, you knew that you could go to the gym, or you could go and play squash, or you could go for a run, because your day was structured, because you had a job. Whereas when you become a business owner, you can end up waking up, opening the laptop and not closing it again solidly until 9 p.m.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, got to work, got to work, got to work, got to work. And all of that shit that isn't something that's just nice. It's something that you need, takes a back seat.
Yeah.
For your physical health, your mental health, all of that takes a back seat. And in the front seat goes money and work and stress and grind and get your head down. You've got to make this work. And so you need someone, if you're not naturally good at doing it, you need someone to come in and say, no, you must do CrossFit. You must do your run.
Absolutely. And this is, so there's 2 things I want to talk about. So the first is that clients that I work with, they've never run a business before. They've got no experience. So I have to work with them to structure a business back end of finance time, bookkeeper, reconciling, all of those things there. I have to work with them on. I have to show them profit, honestly, there are clients I have to work with on that. They've been successful, and yet they've not really known their numbers. So I have to work with them on that. And then the second thing is that I've had this period of my life where I've come from New Zealand, very fit and healthy, running sometimes twice a day, coming to the UK, and I just went all in on business. I was obsessed with it. I didn't socialize, I didn't exercise, and I wasn't eating like a pig. I wasn't eating KFC every day, but I just wasn't moving. I wasn't
I thought you
prioritizing
was going to
myself.
say I came to the UK. You went, and I went all in on, and I thought you was going to say biscuits.
Well, I
And
did
then you
have
said
biscuits.
business.
I tell you what, mate, I did have biscuits, but and my health became very poor. So I ended up in a situation where, the business was very successful, earning good money, buying HMOs, but I was getting fatter and fatter and unhealthy. And I've now gone through this cycle of employing coaches. I did a fitness program, and now I really hammer that home with my clients. Like, we got to work on the business. We've got to make sure it's profitable, but you need time to be healthy mentally and physically. And that's also what is put into your mouth. So I like to help my clients with that as well. And I don't want anyone to listen to this and think, Christ, I'm not going to work with her. She's going to have me on veggies and rice and a bit of meat. But it's so important. I tell you, when I did this fitness program, it's not like I'm elderly, but I feel 10 years younger just from the transformation fitness program that I did. I didn't even think that was possible. I thought actually I was all right. I knew that I was overweight and I wasn't eating properly, but I didn't think I felt that bad. But now I feel like $1,000,000, and that's just from exercise and food.
Yeah. Health is wealth, right? And you might find that, if you take that time in the morning, let's say 8 till 10 or 9 to 11, to go to the gym, to do your run, to go and do whatever you need to do to keep in shape and feel good about yourself, you actually, in a weird way, end up then achieving way more for the next 5 or 6 hours in the day than just getting up and being like, work, 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 because, you're just completely messed up. And, I go on about it. Like, how many people do you see that are like in front of their Lambo, like, hey, look at me. And they've got like a gut hanging over down to their knees. They look 65 and they're actually 40, and they're like, here's the watch. And you're like, dude, like, none of that matters. You look like shit.
No, exactly. Very much so. And I love, like, I've got clients of mine, and he was just like working. I said, and he did like CrossFit. I said, get in the CrossFit, get in that box and get back into it. And now he's just loving life, and he's so much more on top of everything. His health, he feels amazing. And I'm so proud of him for doing that. I've got another client who signed up with my coach. So I was like, yay. So I just love it.
And another reason why CrossFit's so good is because business can, be so lonely. You spend so much time at home by yourself in front of a computer, not speaking to anyone. So CrossFit is way better than just going to the gym, because you walk in, phone stays in the bag, conversation, workout,
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
just crunching it out for the next hour and before you drop on the floor, and then it's done. It's
Yeah,
brilliant.
I always think CrossFit's really good because even if you want to die, you can't, because a lot of it, sometimes you're in a team. So you just wait till you get home to die and you're like, I'm never going back there again. But it's so good for just working you that extra bit, and it's fun, and yeah, it's a good thing to get into.
Yeah. Yeah. You won't die in this wad. Keep going. Come on. I'm gonna die. No, it's absolutely love it. I got into that in a big way, and I should probably go back and do that again. It's a great social environment. It's so competitive. It's so supportive. It can be a little bit off-putting because you think that everybody's going to be like butch and tough but it's not like that at all. There's people of all levels that are just giving it everything they've got.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely love it.
I used to do CrossFit, and honestly, the social element of it and how nice people were and how good the owners were, I can't falter. I think it's a good one for people to get into.
Yeah. And something, just rewinding a little bit, that you said that was interesting about the things that you do when you work with your clients is just like the basics of business, because so many people that are getting into, especially rent to rent, a lot of people are coming from a job. They're trying to get out their job, replace their income. they don't know what reconciling is. They don't know what invoicing is. They don't know what VAT is, any of that stuff. And it can be embarrassing to be a business owner and to put your hand up and say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
work with clients on that, and it's very important, especially clients that are doing rent to rent or they've got particular deals they're bringing on, for me to look at that and really question it, and make sure that I'm someone that they could bounce ideas off as well. So if they didn't have me, I get nothing out of it. For them to bring a deal to me and for me to critique it and say, well, okay, that looks okay, but go back and try and get these terms. I enjoy doing that.
Yeah. And even if you can't, not everybody's in a position to take on a mentor or take on a coach, as soon as you can get to that point, you absolutely should. But, if you're in the trenches and you're just trying to kind of, fight your way out,
Mm.
if you know someone, if you've got a friend or a family member that has that kind of knowledge, like, lean on them for
Yeah.
that. I'm super lucky. I've got a friend here that's so smart, so clever when it comes to business and admin and invoicing and tax and all that stuff. And I'm constantly going to her and being like, what does this mean? And you need that person in your life.
It's interesting. I think so that lease option property I did, we're extremely good friends with those people, and they're of a different generation to us. So they're in their 70s now, and their knowledge on politics within Cornwall, council, all of the background stuff, because they've been in a bedsit time, different world and stuff. That was really, really helpful to go to them, and they knew a lot of people in Cornwall as well. So yeah, it was, and we're still really good friends with them today. And their knowledge on Cornwall and the positions that people have, and it's just invaluable.
Opens doors. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And we do a lot of work, with our mentees, who are getting into, rent to rent serviced accommodation. Same thing. Like, a lot of them have gone and done training with various schools. They learn how to source properties, how to make them look nice, how to put them on the OTAs, how to deal with guests, how to run a channel manager. But when it comes to how to run the business, nothing. Never
yeah.
gets taught, never gets spoken about. It's all
No,
a little bit too complicated, a little bit too scary. And the main problem is it's not sexy. It doesn't sell
that's it.
courses to say business is really fucking hard
Yeah,
and you're going to be, knee deep in invoices, and you've got to pay tax and VAT, and you've got to allocate payments here and there. You've got to
yeah.
be organized, know your numbers. Da, da, da. That shit doesn't sell. What
No,
does sell is, six-figure bookings, financial freedom, da 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 da. So it's only when they come out and they take on the properties, make the commitment, sign the contract, start paying out money, and then they're like, it's going out quicker than it's coming in, and I don't
yeah.
know where this is going, where that's going, what this is for. So it's a
It's
problem.
it's so funny you say that, because if you remember me saying, like, I could have gone and taught rent to rent or HMOs and that sort of thing, but I chose systems, procedures, and outsourcing to virtual assistants. So not sexy, but it's what you need. I'm doing what people need, and it's frustrating sometimes, because I get people say, oh yeah, I'm thinking about going with you, but I'm also thinking about doing this course, and because I'll make £10,000 a month. And I'm like, I just can't. I've got to be very.
Yeah.
If it was a Kiwi, I could be very blunt with them, but I got to watch my
Yeah.
bluntness with the UK. But yeah,
Oh, we have those conversations all the time. They're like, well, what do you charge? I'm like, yeah, we charge this, and we know that we're worth that. And they're like, well, why would I pay this when I saw this ad and that he's going to make me 100 grand a year in 3 months, and he's only £1,000 for that course? And I'm like,
yeah,
you go and do that course.
yeah,
Give me a call in a few months when you're
yes.
bankrupt and you've lost everything.
It's
You know,
yeah. You just got to be there for people, and it's a real shame. But yeah,
it's unfortunate. You're so right. The stuff that you need, the reality stuff, the tasks, the processes, the systems, the business
yeah,
knowledge, all of that stuff is like, I don't want to know anything about that. I just want to know about six-figure bookings,
yeah.
financial freedom, as quick as possible. And what was it? I had a conversation with a guy the other day, and he was like, he wanted to, get set up in Dubai and do it all over there and everything. And I was like, look, I'll be honest, I don't know much about that market. I do know that in the UK it's becoming very saturated, and you really need to know what you're doing, and being honest and being genuine and being realistic. And he was like, well, everyone's killing it in Dubai. You just take on a property, you make tons of money. And I was like, okay, so who have you actually spoken to who's doing it? He was like, well, there's this guy that I've seen on Facebook. And I'm like, was it a paid ad? And he's like, well, yeah, it was like one of those ads that like on my Facebook. I'm like, yeah, you can't make a decision based on that.
Yeah.
But that is what's happening.
Yeah, it's one thing that I talk to my clients about is shiny object syndrome. So it's something that I know from New Zealand, just consistency is key. Just if you stick to this, you will be successful. And, when I get clients that will say, oh, I've seen this or I've seen that, or oh, let me show you what I've seen on Instagram. And I'm like, you are so, you are on this path. You're actually starting to make money now. Stay on this path. Do not get pulled into another strategy. Stay on your path. So, and that's no different to if I feel really bad saying this, but if you can't make money in the UK, moving to Dubai is still competitive. It's still, you've still got to put in work. Nothing is easy. Let's face it, is it? Running a business, bringing on stock, whether it's for HMO or service accommodation, you got to work for it. It's work in the UK or it's work in Dubai. Pick it.
And I think what I'm realizing is, shit's going to get hard and go wrong and get difficult real fast when you're starting out. It's inevitable. Everybody's going to go through it. And that when you come down and you're like, doubt, I've done, nothing's working, can't do it. That's when the magpie syndrome kicks in and you're like, I need to go and do this. And then you start over again, but you need to stick with it and then, gradually rise back up.
Oh, Christ, you've got to think to yourself, if it's hard, people are going to drop off. So it's essentially potentially going to get, if you've been going and you've got your systems, your procedures in place and you're organized, things could get a little bit easier for you as other people drop off because it's starting to get harder. So you've got to stick with it. I think people should be excited when things get hard or difficult, or people saying, oh, don't do that strategy, it's hard now. You can't. It's like, well, I should be getting into it because there'll be less people doing it because it's hard. Get excited by it. Get excited by the hard work because good times are going to come for you.
Well, look, I think what you're doing is amazing. I think it's so important, and I hope that we've got that point across in this conversation that it's not something that would just be nice to have. It's something that if you want to grow, if you want to build a business, that at some point you can step out of and actually get your time back, which is the point where you done it in the first place. You need to be doing this stuff early on by working with someone like you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm now at the stage now. So I am 2 months overseas living in New Zealand, and that has all come from having systems, procedures, and virtual assistants in place. And it didn't happen last month. This has been years in the making. I've gone through all the poop times so that I could give my clients now this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and you'll get to hear. So you've got to start today, and you don't need to have 40 hours to give them this week. You can start with an hour, 2 hours, build your way up.
Couple of questions as we think about wrapping up here. If you were starting out again, 21, looking at getting into property or going onto your business journey, what would you do different? What would you do? What big mistakes did you make? Something that made different path that you take, or
with that rent-to-rent business and also taking on managements, I thought to solve my problem of having no time, I'd get another employed person. But I was employing people just above minimum wage. It wasn't working. So if I could go back, I would either go virtual assistants earlier, or because when you have a big property business, you've got a letting agency or something like that, you should have. So when I work with letting agencies of a certain size, I don't just get rid of their staff and go all virtual assistants. I will find somebody in the office who is their money maker. I do believe if you're employing people, it's a luxury now, and they should make your business money. So I will find the person in the office who is capable of that, and they're going to be the main person in the business that's bringing on the money the high income stuff, the properties or whatever. And then the virtual assistants are doing all the laptop work, supporting the office, supporting that team member. And that's what I would do if I could go back. I would have got virtual assistants and I would have hired well and paid top money for somebody within the business to.
So you probably would have done more of what you're doing right now, but you would have just brought it in a lot earlier.
Yeah, definitely. And also it was because of the stress of having the staff and the problems I was having, I actually got rid of quite a few rent to rents because I thought that would solve my problem. So I'd get rid of that. I'd get rid of that staff member. I was very stressed out. I made some stupid business decisions, got rid of a lot of money because I was focused on employed staff. If I'd had maybe a mentor like me who said, look, and pushed me out of my comfort zone and gone for virtual assistants earlier, I would have a different, maybe I'd just have perhaps more money and a bit more virtual assistants working in the business and that key person, because that's a lot of the thing as well. These property people are not actually replacing themselves. They bring in virtual assistants, but the business is only growing if they do the work. By bringing in a key player, employed person on decent money, they're going to take over that role and grow the business.
What's the one thing, if you were to give people at home like one thing, one task, one technique to do every day, what do you think what's the biggest takeaway to help them like improve their chances of success?
You've got to look at how much money you're earning and where you want to be. So if you're earning this much money profit and you want to be there, you've got to figure out how you're going to do it. And it's not answering the phone. It's not texting tenants. It's not checking your emails. You've got to figure out how you're going to get there. Income, having money gives you choice. It allows you to employ that person on top money. It allows you to bring in virtual assistants. It gives you options. Without money, you're just going to be constantly doing all of the activities. You're never going to get a holiday, a proper holiday. You're never going to be able to spend 2, 3, 6 months overseas. It's going to consume you. Money, profit is what is going to give you the options of employing people and having VAs. I would say you've got to focus on that, bring that money in.
Yeah. Yeah. The more you think about it and you start to visualize the future, you immediately think about the rewards at the end of it if you get there, but you don't think about how am I going to be in a position to enjoy those things because I've built this massive, chain now that's eating me every minute of every day. That's sucking all my energy. You've got to have a team around you.
You've got to have a team. Systems and procedures are part of organizing your business and helping your team do the day-to-day tasks. But without the team, without the VAs, you don't get any time back. You might get a little bit just out of pure, because the business is now organized, so it cuts a little bit of time here and there. But the only way you get true time freedom is bringing on either VAs or your top players in your business, bringing them on to run those tasks. That's your true freedom. So if you're only going to organize the business and you're not going to bring on VAs, you're not going to get your time back. You don't get your time back from organizing a business.
Okay. So, all right. So look, I'm sold. I think what you're doing is great. I hope that we made, what could be potentially seen as a bit of a dull subject, fun and put across in a way, where people realize, okay, I now see the importance in this. So just tell us exactly, what is it that you've got going on? How do people reach you? What is it that people could do with you if they want to reach out?
So I have a full package program, and that is essentially the first 13 weeks together and then a 6-month membership thereafter. So I stay with the director, make sure the VA stays in place, they stay on track, all of that. And the first 12 weeks, I am taking all the low hourly rate tasks in the business, and we're going to make procedures around those and get them ready to hand over to a VA. So around week 10 is when we start doing interviews. So I'm with you one-on-one the whole way through. And the kind of things that we are systemizing or creating procedures for is storage of your business. You want to be online, cloud-based. And I've got the templates for that. So I'm setting that all up. That helps you with your bookkeeper, your VAs, everything like that, your accountant. And then other things that I'm doing during that 12 weeks is the phone system, the email system. I'm doing, I build your Asana for you, or your Trello as well. That is a very key tool with your VA. If you haven't got that, don't get a VA without Asana or Trello. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm working on all of that over the 12-week period and get the VA started. So that's the full package. And then I do, if somebody's actually pretty good and they're not, that they are onto it finance-wise as well, and they just want a hand with the phone system and the email system, then I have on my store, they could book the package where they get 2 topics and they get a Zoom call with me. So they could do that as well if they just need certain parts of the business doing.
It's a lot of stuff. And is this for any business, or is it just property business?
So my thing is letting agencies, HMO businesses, service accommodation, rent to rent. That's my, I can do that with my eyes closed. I love it. I am doing an electrician business at the minute that was referred to me from a property business. So I wouldn't be rushing out there to do plumbers and electricians. I'm doing that because it's a growth business. It's very exciting, and I do like to get my teeth stuck into stuff. So I'm doing that. But yeah, it's mainly property right now that I'm doing.
Well, look, there's a lot of people listening to this that are in property, so yeah, I would definitely implore them to reach out if they're struggling with their time, or if they it's that all that annoying stuff like can't remember my login passwords. Well, where the hell is that email gone? It can get messy so quick, and to think of having all of that organized is it's very, very exciting. So
yeah, and some people just need their hand holding with it. So like the emails, when I get round to emails, they're normally just, oh, my mate does it for me, or my mate's got this business and I just call him if I need this, or it's not professional. So, but they've known that, my clients have known that for a very long time. It doesn't work for them, but they've just needed somebody to hold their hand and say, right, this week, this is what you're going to do. We're going to go and do that, and we're going to get that set up. And by Friday, we're going to have this in place. That's what they need.
Well, look, it's been a great conversation. I think you're great. Love your character. Love your energy. Definitely someone that I could see would be fun to do some business with. So yeah, we're going to put all of your information, all of LaToya's information in the show notes, guys. So if you want to reach out and have a chat, all of her handles, website, contact information, email, all that stuff will be in the show notes. And if you want to sort your life out, get in touch with LaToya. She's your woman to do that. So thanks so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate your time.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And yeah, thanks for everybody for listening and watching at home. So until next week, we'll see you then for another episode of the Airbnb Nomads podcast. Till then, take care. See you then. Bye.